The three human ships hung silently in the void, their dark hulls barely reflecting the distant starlight. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, sleek, powerful, and far more dangerous than their modest size suggested. The lead ship, *Thunderchild*, carried Commander Tom Walker and his veteran crew of deep space explorers. "Sir, multiple contacts appearing at the edge of our sensor range," reported Jack, the sensor officer. His fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing up detailed readings. "They're big, sir. Really big." Walker leaned forward in his command chair, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. For 6 months, they'd been pushing deeper into unexplored space, knowing they'd eventually encounter the empire everyone in the frontier worlds whispered about. "How many ships, Jack?" 27, sir. Largest one is about 4 kilometers long. Energy readings suggest they're running hot, weapons charged and shields up." The bridge crew remained calm, their training evident in their relaxed postures. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this moment, though the Empire didn't know that yet. "Coming into visual range now," announced Mary from the tactical station. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a fleet of massive ships. They were ornate, covered in gleaming gold and silver decorations, more like floating palaces than warships. "They're hailing us, sir," said the communications officer. Walker nodded. "Put them on screen." The image changed to show a tall, regal-looking alien. Its purple skin and elaborate uniform screamed Empire more than any of the golden ships had. The alien's expression was one of practiced superiority. "Unknown vessels," the alien announced in perfect English, causing several crew members to exchange knowing looks. "You have entered the territory of the Galactic Imperial Empire. You will power down your vessels immediately and prepare to be boarded. Your species will be evaluated for worthiness to serve as subjects of the Empire. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Walker didn't respond immediately. He looked down, his shoulders shaking slightly. The alien's expression shifted to one of confusion. "Did you understand the message, primitive vessel? Your translation devices appear to be functioning." Walker looked up, and now everyone could see he was laughing. Not nervous laughter or hysterical laughter, but the kind of laugh someone gives when they've just heard a particularly good joke. "Oh, we understood you perfectly," Walker said, wiping a tear from his eye. "It's just, well, we've been watching your empire for about 50 years now, and we were betting on what your first words would be. I just won the ship's betting pool." The alien's face contorted in confusion. "You dare mock the Imperial fleet? Our ships outnumber yours 9-1. Walker's laughter died away, replaced by a predator's smile. "You know what humans did before we went to the stars. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. Every major advancement in our history came from trying to figure out better ways to win wars. When we weren't fighting, we were preparing to fight." He stood up, walking closer to the screen. "We split the atom to make better bombs. We went to space because of a Cold War. We developed computers to break military codes. We mapped our own genes to make better soldiers. And when we finally united, it wasn't because we learned to love peace." The alien's superior expression had vanished, replaced by uncertainty. "We united because we looked up at the stars and realized that sooner or later we'd meet someone like you, someone who'd try to conquer us, and we decided that wouldn't happen." Walker sat back down, still smiling. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to witness exactly why challenging humanity is a bad idea. And then, if you're smart, you're going to go back to your leaders and explain that the territory you just claimed." He paused for effect. "It's actually ours. We just let you think it was unclaimed." The alien's face had drained of color, its purple skin turning almost white. "And the best part," Walker added, "these 3 ships. They're not a military fleet. We're your welcoming committee." Behind him, the bridge crew had stopped even pretending to work. They were all grinning now, watching the Empire's first contact team realize just how badly they'd misread the situation. The next few minutes were going to be very educational for the Empire. The Imperial commander's face on the view screen had turned from white back to purple, but now with rage rather than confidence. "You dare to mock us? Let us demonstrate the power of the Imperial fleet." Walker turned to Mary at the tactical station. "They're charging weapons, aren't they?" "Yes, sir," she replied, not even bothering to look at her display. "Their targeting systems are primitive. They're still using laser-guided systems with predictive algorithms that would have been outdated on Earth a century ago." The Imperial commander's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected them to know the details of Imperial weapon systems. Walker pressed a button on his chair, and a holographic display appeared between him and the view screen. It showed a complete tactical breakdown of the Imperial fleet. Every weapon, every shield generator, every engine configuration. "Let me save you some time," Walker said, gesturing at the display. "Your main guns are particle beam weapons, powered by antimatter reactors that are honestly pretty impressive for their time. Your shields use a layered energy field that's good against kinetic weapons, but vulnerable to phase-shifted attacks. And your engines," he paused, shaking his head. "Well, they're not bad, but using crystal matrices for power regulation. We abandoned those decades ago. Too unstable." How do you know this?" the Imperial commander demanded. Walker's smile grew wider. "We've had probes watching your empire for 50 years. Did you really think those trading ships that visit your outer colonies were just simple merchants? They've been scanning your technology, learning your languages, studying your tactics." He stood up again, walking through the hologram. "Right now, you're probably thinking about firing a warning shot. You'll target the space about half a kilometer in front of our lead ship. That's standard Imperial protocol for first contact scenarios, according to the manual we downloaded from your military academy's database last year." The Imperial commander's jaw dropped. Several officers behind him were frantically checking their data tablets. "What you don't know," Walker continued, "is the humans have a different approach to first contact. We don't fire warning shots. We give warnings." He nodded to Jack, who pressed a sequence of buttons. Suddenly, every screen on the Imperial ships flickered, showing the same image, a detailed map of their empire, with thousands of small dots scattered throughout it. Each of those dots, Walker explained, is a human observation post, research station, or colony. "We've been living in your empire for decades. Those uninhabitable worlds you never bothered to check. Perfect for our environmental suits. Those empty sectors of space, full of our stealth satellites." The Imperial bridge crew was in chaos now. Reports were coming in from across their fleet as officers discovered their computer systems had been completely mapped by human cyber warfare systems. "Here's your warning," Walker said, his voice growing serious. "Fire that shot, and we'll be forced to demonstrate just how far ahead of you we really are. And trust me, you don't want that. Your crew doesn't want that. And your empire definitely doesn't want that." He sat back down, crossing his legs casually. "Or we could talk. About cooperation, about trade, about helping your empire deal with some of the threats you don't even know are coming. Your choice." "Threats?" the Imperial commander asked, his voice shaking slightly. "What threats?" "The ones your long-range sensors can't detect yet," Walker replied. "The ones that made us decide to reach out now, instead of waiting another decade or two. The ones that are making us offer you a chance to upgrade your technology, instead of just watching you struggle with outdated systems." The commander was silent for a long moment, looking at the map still displayed on his screens. Finally, he spoke. "You said we have a choice." "Yes," Walker replied. "You can either fire that shot and learn exactly why humans find your threats amusing, or you can listen to what we have to say. What's it going to be?" The entire human bridge crew watched silently as the Imperial commander faced the most important decision of his career. The next few moments would determine whether this would be a lesson in humility or a demonstration of human military superiority. The choice, as humans like to say, was his. Pride, as it turned out, was stronger than wisdom. The Imperial commander's face hardened as he straightened his uniform. "The Empire does not negotiate with primitives," he declared. "All ships, open fire." Walker sighed and looked at his crew. "Well, we gave them a chance. Battle stations, everyone. But keep casualties to a minimum. They're just scared and stupid, not evil." 27 Imperial warships fired their main weapons simultaneously. The space between the fleets lit up like a new sun as particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and energy lances streaked toward the 3 human ships. The Imperial bridge crew watched with satisfied smiles, expecting to see the small vessels vanish in the barrage. Instead, something impossible happened. The weapons fire hit an invisible wall about a kilometer from the human ships, spreading out like water hitting glass. The energy dissipated harmlessly, creating beautiful patterns of light that reflected off the human ship's dark hulls. "Should I put on some music, sir?" Mary asked from her tactical station, not even looking up from filing her nails. This light show could use a soundtrack. "Not now, Mary," Walker replied, though he was smiling. He opened the comm channel again. "Would you like to try that again? Maybe with your secondary weapons this time. The ones you think we don't know about." The Imperial commander was shouting orders to his weapons officers. The fleet's defense grid came alive as hidden weapon ports opened, revealing the Empire's secret arsenal. Exotic matter torpedoes, quantum disruptors, and graviton beams, weapons that were supposed to be impossible to defend against, launched in a second wave. The results were the same. "Fascinating," Jack commented, studying his sensor readings. "They actually think their quantum disruptors are state-of-the-art. Should we show them what real quantum technology looks like?" Walker nodded. "Just a small demonstration. Target their flagship's primary shield generator. Minimal power." Mary finally looked up from her nails, pressing a single button. A thin beam of blue light, no wider than a pencil, shot from the Thunderchild's smallest point defense turret. It passed through the Imperial flagship's shields as if they weren't there, touching the shield generator with surgical precision. The massive generator didn't explode or melt. It simply stopped working. Panic erupted on the Imperial bridge as warning signals blared. Their most powerful shields, capable of withstanding supernovas according to their engineers, had been bypassed by what appeared to be a human targeting laser. "How?" the Imperial commander stammered. "That's impossible." "Impossible." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Your scientists were on the right track with quantum mechanics, but you gave up too soon. Focused too much on weapons, not enough on understanding the underlying principles. We learned to manipulate quantum fields before we left our solar system." He stood up, walking to the front of his bridge. "Right now, your crew is probably telling you that your shields are still at full power, but somehow that beam went right through them. They're confused because their sensors show no damage to the generator. But it's not working. Would you like me to explain why?" The Imperial commander's only response was stunned silence. "We didn't break your shield generator," Walker continued. "We just convinced the quantum probability of it working to temporarily become 0. It'll start working again in about 10 minutes. Consider it a free sample of what human technology can do." He paused, letting that sink in. "Now, imagine what would happen if we decided to do that to your life support systems, or your artificial gravity, or your antimatter containment fields." The Imperial fleet hung motionless in space. None of their remaining weapons were firing now. "So," Walker said cheerfully, "should we go back to that conversation about cooperation? The one where we help you upgrade your technology instead of demonstrating more ways it's outdated." The Imperial commander looked at his silent weapons console, then at his powerless shield generator, and finally at his terrified crew. His voice was barely a whisper when he responded. Perhaps we should talk after all." "Excellent choice," Walker replied. Now, about those threats I mentioned earlier. Before we continue our discussion, Walker said, looking at the now attentive Imperial commander, I think you need to understand exactly why challenging humanity was a bad idea. Jack, show them the history package. The tactical display between the ships changed, showing images of Earth. But these weren't the peaceful, pristine views the Empire's scouts had reported. These were images of war. This was humanity just 300 years ago, Walker explained. We had split our planet into nearly 200 different nations. Each one had its own military, its own weapons, its own plans for survival. The display showed massive naval fleets, armies of tanks, and aircraft that darkened the skies. The Imperial commander watched in growing horror as scenes of combat played out. Sir, one of his officers whispered, these energy readings, even their primitive weapons were stronger than our current standard-issue equipment. Walker nodded. We didn't have shields back then. No energy weapons. No faster-than-light travel. But what we did have was competition. Constant, relentless competition. The images changed to show laboratories, test sites, and manufacturing facilities. Every nation feared its neighbors. Every military raced to build better weapons. Every scientist worked to create stronger defenses. When one side made armor, the other made better bullets. When one built bunkers, another made bombs that could penetrate them. But this level of conflict, the Imperial commander stuttered. It should have destroyed your civilization. It nearly did. Several times, Walker's voice grew serious. We had weapons that could destroy entire cities. We poisoned our air, our water, our soil. We built enough nuclear weapons to kill our planet several times over. The display showed mushroom clouds, then scenes of devastation that made several Imperial officers look away. And then, Walker continued, something interesting happened. We realized that if we could do this to ourselves, someone else might do it to us. Someone from out there. He pointed to the stars. The images changed again, showing the first human space stations, lunar bases, and Mars colonies. We didn't unite because we learned to love each other. We didn't stop fighting because we became peaceful. We joined together because we were paranoid. Because we looked up at the stars and thought, what if there's something worse out there? That's why your scouts found no weapons on Earth, Jack added. Everything military grade is built in space now. Earth is just for culture, agriculture, and basic industry. The Imperial commander's eyes widened. Just for, you mean? Earth isn't our military center, Walker confirmed. It's our nature preserve, our museum, our reminder of what we used to be. Every weapon you've seen today was built in orbital factories around dead worlds, designed by AI systems that evolved from our war machines, powered by technology we developed to kill each other more efficiently. The display changed one final time, showing the true extent of human space. Thousands of systems, hundreds of thousands of military installations, millions of automated defense platforms. Your empire expanded through conquest, Walker said. You found primitive species and subjugated them. You grew comfortable, confident, lazy. But humanity, we expanded through paranoia. Every new world we found, we assumed it might hide a threat. Every empty system became a fortress. Every scientific discovery was first examined for its military potential. He let that sink in before continuing. And now here we are. You, with your golden ships and your proud empire, threatening 3 human scouts with technology we surpassed centuries ago. Why? The Imperial commander swallowed hard. Why are you telling us this? Walker smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Because the threats I mentioned, the ones coming that your sensors can't detect, they're exactly what we've been preparing for all these years. And if your empire is going to survive what's coming, you need to understand something. What's that? The commander asked quietly. Humanity isn't your enemy. We're your wake-up call. And if you're smart, we might even be your salvation. The Imperial bridge fell silent as the weight of those words sank in. Their empire, they were beginning to realize, had just become part of a much larger, much more dangerous universe. "Now," Walker said, rising from his command chair, "it's time for a proper demonstration. Mary, disable their fleet." "All of it, sir?" Mary asked, finally showing real interest in the proceedings. "All of it." Mary pressed 3 buttons on her console. There was no flash of light, no dramatic explosion. Instead, every Imperial ship simply went dark. Emergency lights flickered on across their hulls as backup systems engage. "What? What did you do?" the Imperial commander demanded, his image now lit only by emergency lighting. "Quantum state manipulation of your power cores," Walker explained casually. "Don't worry, life support is still running. We're not monsters." He adjusted his uniform. "Now, if you don't mind, I think it's time we met in person. I'll be boarding your flagship in 5 minutes." "Our shields," the commander began, "are down, yes, along with everything else except basic life support and communications. Do try to keep up." Walker turned to his crew. "Jack, you have the bridge. Mary, with me." In the Imperial flagship's docking bay, dozens of guards waited with weapons drawn. They had been ordered to defend against whatever shuttle or boarding craft the humans would use. Instead, 2 figures simply appeared in the middle of the room, stepping out of thin air as if walking through a door. Walker and Mary stood there in what looked like simple black uniforms. No spacesuits, no visible weapons, no signs of a teleporter or transportation device. "Hello," Walker said cheerfully to the stunned guards. "Mind pointing us toward the bridge? Though those weapons you're holding won't work, by the way." Mary turned them off too. The guards pulled their triggers anyway. Nothing happened. "Told you," Walker sighed. "Shall we?" The walk to the bridge was quiet, surrounded by shocked Imperial soldiers who couldn't quite believe what was happening. When they arrived, the Imperial commander was waiting, trying to maintain his dignity despite the situation. "Impressive entrance," he managed to say. "Oh, that wasn't impressive," Walker replied. He touched a control on his sleeve, and suddenly his simple black uniform transformed. It became a suit of armor that seemed to be made of liquid metal and shifting light. "This is impressive." Mary's uniform did the same, and she casually walked through a solid metal wall before stepping back through it. "Quantum phase shifting," she explained to the terrified bridge crew. "Very useful for boarding actions. But that's just technology," Walker continued. "What's really impressive is this." He waved his hand, and a hologram appeared showing the Imperial capital world. "Right now, there are 17 human agents in your royal palace, 34 in your military high command, 23 in your science division." The Imperial commander collapsed into his chair. "Impossible. They've been there for years," Mary added. "Some of them are highly ranked officials now. A few are even related to noble families through marriage. We like to be thorough." Walker's armor shifted back to a uniform. "We're not telling you this to frighten you. Well, not just to frighten you. We're telling you because you need to understand the situation. Your empire isn't just outmatched technologically. You're outmatched in every way that matters." He walked to the main viewport, looking out at the disabled fleet. "Right now, we could take over your empire without firing a shot. We could shut down every ship, every weapon, every piece of advanced technology you own. Our agents could assume control of every major institution you have." "Then, why haven't you?" the commander asked. Walker turned back to face him. "Because that's not what humanity wants. We don't want to rule your empire. We want to prepare it, to improve it, to make it strong enough to face what's coming." "And what is coming?" The commander finally asked the question that had been hanging in the air. Walker's expression became grim. "Something that makes humanity look peaceful and technologically backward by comparison. Something that made us decide that your empire needs to be ready sooner rather than later." He held out his hand to the commander. "So, ready to discuss that cooperation I mentioned?" The commander looked at the offered hand, then at his powerless ship, and finally at his frightened crew. Slowly, he reached out and took Walker's hand. "I believe," he said quietly. "We are ready to listen." Walker stood at the main display console of the Imperial flagship's bridge. With a few gestures, he brought up a new holographic map of the galaxy. It was different from any the Imperial crew had ever seen. "Let me show you what your Empire's best scouts and scientists have missed," Walker said. The map zoomed out, revealing thousands of glowing points of light that weren't on any Imperial star chart. Each of these lights is a human military installation, colony, or production center. The Imperial commander stared at the display, his face growing paler with each passing second. The human presence wasn't just within their empire, it completely surrounded it. "That's impossible," one of the science officers whispered. "Our deep space scans would have detected." "No, they wouldn't," Mary interrupted, still casually leaning against a wall she had walked through earlier. "Your detection systems only scan for specific energy signatures. Signatures we learned to mask centuries ago." Walker nodded. "Earth isn't our homeworld anymore. It's our museum, like I said. We have 37 worlds just like it, scattered across the galaxy. Each one produces more military hardware in a day than your entire empire does in a year." He zoomed in on one section of space, showing massive structures floating between the stars. "These are our production centers. Dyson swarms that harvest entire stars for energy. Automated factories that build ships bigger than your largest cities. AI systems that design and test new weapons while you sleep. But our patrols," the commander protested weakly. "Our trading routes have been carefully managed for decades," Walker finished for him. "Those asteroid fields your ships avoid, many of them are our cloaked shipyards. Those dangerous sectors of space you warn ships away from. Training grounds for our fleet." He brought up another display, showing Imperial scout ships. "Every time one of your exploration vessels got too close to something we didn't want you to see, we simply redirected them. A mysterious sensor reading here, a false signal there. Your crews never even knew they were being guided like animals in a pen." The Imperial officers looked at their own sensor logs, finally seeing patterns they had missed for years. Subtle anomalies that had been dismissed. Strange readings that had been ignored. "The Empire spans 3 spiral arms," the commander said, finding some last shred of pride. "We are the largest civilization in known space." Walker actually laughed at that. "Known space? You've been living in a bubble we created. Those 3 spiral arms are just the space we let you play in while we prepared." He expanded the map again. "Humanity holds territory in all 4 quadrants of the galaxy. We have bases in the galactic core that harness the power of supermassive black holes. We built defenses into the very fabric of space-time." Mary walked over to the display and pointed to the galaxy's outer edge. "We even have outposts in the dwarf satellite galaxies. Hard to build, harder to maintain, but necessary for early warning systems." The bridge fell silent as the Imperial crew tried to process the scale of what they were seeing. Their mighty empire, they now realized, was tiny. A small collection of stars in a small part of space, allowed to exist only because humanity had decided to let it grow. "Why?" the commander finally asked. "Why maintain this deception? Why not simply conquer us years ago?" Walker's expression turned serious. "Because you were useful. Your empire brought order to this sector. You unified worlds, established trade routes, created stability. All things we needed you to do, because what's coming won't just threaten your empire or humanity. It will threaten everything." He turned off the galactic map and instead showed something that made the Imperial crew gasp in horror. "We detected these 6 months ago, approaching from intergalactic space. Our most distant sensors confirmed what we feared for centuries." The commander looked at the readings, then at Walker. "How long do we have?" "Without help, your empire would last perhaps 2 days against them. With our help, with our technology and training, you might survive long enough to actually make a difference in the war to come." He held the commander's gaze. "So what's it going to be?" Do you want to keep playing at being a mighty empire, or do you want to help us save the galaxy? 3 days after the initial encounter, the Imperial flagship's bridge looked very different. Human technicians worked alongside Imperial crews, installing new systems that the Empire's best scientists could barely understand. The commander sat with Walker, watching the transformation. "Your council has agreed to our terms?" Walker asked, though he already knew the answer. The commander nodded. They didn't have much choice after seeing the evidence, though I must admit, watching half the Imperial Council reveal themselves as human agents was unsettling. "We needed to be certain the message got through," Walker said, sipping from a cup of coffee, a drink that had already become popular among the Imperial crew. "Your Empire's cooperation is crucial for what's coming." "Show me again," the commander requested. "Show me what we're really facing." Walker activated the new quantum display system they'd installed. The image that appeared made the coffee in the commander's cup ripple from his shaking hands. "We call them the Devourers," Walker explained. "They don't just conquer worlds, they consume them, break them down into base elements, and use the materials to build more of themselves. They've done this to entire galaxies before." The display showed massive structures, each one larger than a solar system, moving between the galaxies. Their surfaces writhed with constant motion, countless machines breaking down and rebuilding themselves. How do you know they've done this before?" "Because we found the empty galaxies," Walker said quietly. "Small ones, on the fringes of the local group, completely stripped of matter. No stars, no planets, no dust, nothing but background radiation and echoes of what used to be there." Mary walked onto the bridge, carrying a data pad. "The first wave of upgrades is complete, sir. Their weapons are now only a century behind ours instead of 3 centuries. "Good progress," Walker nodded. "And the AI integration. Their computers are learning quickly. They've already identified 42 strategic positions we'll need to fortify." The commander looked at his own display, marveling at how smoothly it now operated. "Our fastest ships used to take weeks to reach the outer colonies. Now they can do it in hours. And you say this is still primitive by your standards?" "Baby steps," Mary said with a smile. "Can't give you everything at once. Your crews need time to adapt, to learn the basic principles before we move to the advanced stuff." Walker stood and walked to the viewport. "We have 6 months before the first scout ships arrive. A year before their main fleet reaches the galaxy's edge. In that time, we need to upgrade your entire civilization to the point where you can at least defend yourselves." "And if we can't?" the commander asked. "Then humanity will stand alone, as we always expected we might." Walker turned back to face them. "But we'd prefer to have allies, partners, people who understand what it means to build an empire, to bring order to chaos. That's why we chose to reveal ourselves to you first." Mary's data pad beeped. "Sir, the quantum entanglement communicators are online. The Imperial capital can now coordinate with human command in real time." "Excellent," Walker smiled. "You know, Commander, your empire spent centuries looking down at primitive species, judging them, deciding if they were worthy to join your civilization. How does it feel to be on the other side?" The commander stood straighter. "It feels enlightening and humbling. Though I must ask, when this is over, if we survive, what happens to our empire?" "That depends on you," Walker replied. "If you prove yourselves worthy allies, you'll find humanity to be a generous friend. We don't want to rule you. We want to elevate you, to help you become something greater." The display changed again, showing the combined forces of humanity and the Empire, positioned to defend against the coming storm. "Look at that," Walker said softly. "Your golden ships next to our black ones. Your troops learning to use our weapons. Your worlds preparing to fight alongside ours. It's everything we hoped for when we first looked up at the stars. Different species standing together against the darkness." The commander looked at the display, then at his crew working seamlessly with the humans, and finally at his own console showing power readings that would have seemed magical just days ago. Perhaps, he said, being conquered by humanity was the best thing that could have happened to us. Walker laughed. Conquered? No, my friend. This isn't a conquest. This is an awakening. And together, we're going to show the Devourers exactly why they should have stayed in their empty galaxies. Above them, throughout the ship, throughout the fleet, and across the Empire, the great transformation continued. Humanity had finally found worthy allies, and the real war was about to begin.